Newly uncovered military records obtained by CBS News may explain rare cancers and other diseases among U.S. soldiers deployed to an overseas base after the September 11 terrorist attacks. The 2001 PowerPoint presentation about Karshi-Khanabad Air Base in Uzbekistan, known as K2, was compiled by the Army Environmental Testing Team in fall of 2001. The 17 slides in the presentation describe numerous dangers at the base, including enriched radioactive. He pointed to air as the root of greatest exposure concern, along with serious underground soil fuel contamination that poses a direct health threat upon exposure. The recordings are conclusive evidence. That's what we knew existed. Army veteran Mark T. Jackson of Vakasi Group, the Stronghold Freedom Foundation, told CBS News, "This is what they say never existed. Nearly 15,000 soldiers passed through base, which American Special Operations teams used to launch counter-terrorism strikes against al-Qaeda and the Taliban in Afghanistan after 2001 attacks. Early warnings leading Task Force Dagger. U.S. Army Lt. Gen. John Mulholland was among first to enter Uzbekistan and Afghanistan in the opening days of Operation Enduring Freedom in fall of 2001. Mulholland told CBS News that Russians, who previously occupied the base, treated K2 like a dumping ground and dug a protective earthen barrier around base and then personally called in environmental testing teams when personnel fell ill. Mulholland said there are immediate concerns about toxic materials found at K2, including jet fuel, solvents and depleted and yellowcake uranium. He said the yellowcake was identified to him by military personnel who had knowledge of the materials. Asked about suffering soldiers, Mulholland advocated erring on the side of veterans and not subjecting them to endless labor. Veterans search for evidence for 2 decades. U.S. Army veteran Mark T. Jackson scoured deployment logs, ink-filled pages and yellow post-it notes documenting his failing health while serving at K2 to find answers. All of a sudden I went from being able to run a marathon to barely being able to walk up the stairs," Jackson said. The 46-year-old now takes a daily cocktail of medications to manage his thyroid disorder, chronic anemia and osteoporosis. Last year he was hospitalized for 58 days with unexplained infections affecting his joints. A 2020 CBS News investigation documented toxic conditions at the base, including soil saturated with jet fuel and solvents, as well as warnings about chemicals and radiation. Nearly 2 decades after American troops abandoned K2, the U.S. government has not confirmed that toxic material at the base sickened Jackson and other soldiers. Both Department Defense and Veterans Affairs Administration continue evaluate health impacts those deployed K2, VA website states. VA and Department Defense continue evaluate health impacts this research on those deployed K2. Does health and risks in K2. I felt Lee.